Hello and welcome to our special series Retail Realities here on Storyboard. Today we are going to broaden the discussion and look at categories beyond food and grocery to see what impact modern trade has had. We'll also check how the proposed 51% FDI in multi-brand retail and the just notified policy allowing 100% FDI in single brand retail will affect homegrown chains. Let's start as always with Nikita Rana's ground report.
Vijay Sales began as a 200 square feet store in Mahim in central Mumbai 45 years ago. It has 41 stores across 3 states today, making it the 4th largest consumer electronics retailer after Reliance Digital, Tata's Chroma and Videocon's Next. For the family-owned business, this expansion was a result of big business houses getting into retailing in the past 6 years. The fear was that if it didn't scale up to match competition, it would neither be profitable nor relevant to national brands. As the government plans to open up FDI in multi-brand retail, it believes it is ready to take on the competition.
In our case, the supply chain is very much evolved, and secondly, there are no middlemen. It's normally directly the brands and the retailer, or at the most, in the case of very small retailers, single shop, is the brand, distributor and the retailer. So I think that's where the consumer durable FDI will not make any difference.
Technopak says apparel, jewelry and watches, consumer durables and electronics and footwear together account for half the modern retail market. Today, 34% of the total $5 billion footwear market is organized. Metro Shoes, with 206 stores, is one of the largest homegrown retailers in the segment and says the entry of foreign brands will strain resources.
In the short term, there will be pressures like real estate rentals may become a little bit more, would harden a little bit. There would be a sort of drain on, manpower. People at the front end and back end would be more in demand. There would be, in the short term, even pressures on the domestic retail production, because until people make necessary investments in manufacturing, there would be a little shortage of product as well.
We are also going to sell Sony, Samsung, LG, Apple. So are they. So I don't think so from customer perspective, except that because of the competition, the prices may further go down. That's the only change which I feel will happen.
Domestic footwear and apparel retailers say foreign retailers will find it tough to please Indian shoppers in Tier 2 cities. Customizing products and keeping prices low isn't easy, and for now, they're not worried about the government's new policy. In Mumbai, Nikita Rana.
Bring it on, it seems they're saying. Do the strong, well-entrenched retail brands in categories like apparel, consumer durables, jewelry have nothing to fear from the global players? And why is the opposition to the FDI policy muted in this sector? My guest today should have the answers. Please welcome Bhaskar Bhatt, Managing Director of Titan Industries, William Bissell, Managing Director of Fab India. He joins us from New Delhi, and Rama Bijapurkar and R. Sriram of Next Practice Retail. Rama, let me start off with you. Food and grocery. The opposition to opening up the retail sector to foreign direct investment seems to be coming from this category. Is it because of the sheer size and scale? Because it's 10 times the next category, which is apparel. Is that the reason it impacts more people?
Partly that is the main reason. There is no hue and cry because food and grocery is almost 2/3 of the total retail sales of this country, traditional and modern taken together. And then if you look at categories like apparel, it's only 7% of the total. So the rest of the categories are really quite fragmented. Footwear is about 1%, durables and electronics 5%. That's part one. Part two is that in many of these categories, we've already seen the move to modern trade. Bhaskar's watch category, of which he is king, is over 60% is modern trade. 67% of footwear, as we saw on your program, is modern trade. Even eyewear has moved. So the traditional trader has spent the last 10 years quietly dying or morphing. And so there's not much hue and cry left. And finally, in apparel and durable, 80%, 70 to 80% are still corner shops. But they actually serve a much poorer customer, a much poorer price performance. So they're not competing with the kirana, where we all have the same tur dal and the same soap, and we're serving the same customers, both traditional and modern.
So it's to do with the segments, it's the lifestyle segments will be different in terms of the reaction they're getting. Bhaskar, let me get you in here. Do you think that the government would have been able to bring in this 51% FDI in multi-brand retail if they had, for the time being, left food and grocery out?
This category, lifestyle, if you have to look at it from the consumer's perspective, lifestyle is about brands. It's not so much about retailing. And Indians have always loved brands. If you were to look only at watches, you talked about watches. Now, modernizing retail was something we did, but we did it as an enabler for the brand. That is, we felt that the retail experience was not good enough, and therefore we invested there. And it was possible, we are making money. So what is somebody else going to bring is what we need to deal with. So we are not, certainly as a company, and I'm sure the rest, in watch retailing worldwide, there are either retailers or there are brands. And there are not too many retail chains in watches.
Right.
So watches, if you keep out, if you look at jewelry, jewelry per se is not a big category for a foreign brand to come in, because today jewelry is bought based on today's price of gold plus a making charge. That kind of margin attracts no one.
The question is, do you think that the government could have brought in 51% in multi-brand FDI,
Certainly. We have always,
multi-brand retail, if it had kept food and grocery out for the time being?
We had always been supportive of this. It would certainly improve. Certainly at the luxury end in watch retailing, for example, there's not a big enough platform. China has moved to $2.5 billion in terms of retail sales of luxury watches. Here, there aren't enough because the platform is not there. Not that we want to do that, but it would help the consumer certainly, because consumers are not, they're finally, I don't know, they're buying it in Dubai or
Okay,
Singapore
let me get William Bissell in here. William, you've spent the past 10, 15 odd years creating, taking Fab India to becoming a national domestic brand, isn't it? And making it a retail brand, taking it across the country. How do you react to this policy at Fab India?
Well, the 51% retail in multi-brand retail is a very good idea. It should have come 10 years ago. The longer they delay it, the more expensive Indian consumers are going to pay for their basic items. To give you an example, we now buy our kids' clothes when we go to America because the prices at Walmart and Target are cheaper than getting the prices here. And when you see the prices of groceries in some of the countries where these big retailers have come in, you're amazed at how they can sell things so inexpensively and make them so fresh. And I think that investment is vitally needed here, and it's only going to come if you open up to the chains who take a 20, 30-year perspective on a market and really put in the infrastructure. On single brand retail, it's a welcome. I don't think single brand retail is going to really affect the poor of this country. I don't even think it's going to affect the middle class of this country. But what it will do is it will bring international brands like IKEA and the Gap to India. And I think that as long as there isn't any dumping of goods from China on the Indian market, which is a fear that one has, I think Indian manufacturing should thrive. And I think the best thing they've done in the policy is have the 30% reservation for the SME sector, because that alone could create tens of millions of jobs in the next decade.
Right. Sriram, do you see a flood of investment coming in now that the policy has been notified in single brand retail? Or will we see a trickle, which is what we saw in 2006 when it was 51%?
Well, I certainly don't see floodgates opening for several reasons. One, if you look at the garments business, that's what we're discussing now, the duty structures make it unviable for any mass market brand to enter India, unless, of course, they start production in India. And for that, they need to have large scale. So again, unless they have investments in the front end, they won't be able to aggregate enough demand. Unless they aggregate enough demand, they can't really manufacture at a price which makes it viable for them to sell at a reasonable, mass market price.
But the point William just made about manufacturing will thrive if the policy, given the policy that they've notified.
Currently, we are talking about premium and premium plus brands. The average selling price of these garments, for instance, if you take a shirt, most of the brands that we see in malls sell for a starting price of 12 to 1500 rupees. You're talking about 25, 30 US dollars. In the US, any department store, you'll find really good brands at 25, 30 dollars. In PPP terms, these are priced actually at, if you take a 4 times PPP, 80 to 100 dollars. So these are not the poor of India. These are not even the middle class of India. These brands are really catering to the rich in India. The numbers are still very, very small. So I don't see chains really making a beeline.
But also, isn't the game about global sourcing? So, it's not like everything will be manufactured in India.
That's right. While that policy is going to help, because we have really great manufacturers who actually supply the textile businesses of the world. most of the brands around the world have suppliers in India. So we have the capability in India, but actually to manufacture at the price which is right for India. For instance, if I were to look at a mass market brand, I want to see it available in India at 500 or a sub 500 rupee level.
Right.
Right?
Okay, William, would I be right in interpreting then that Fab India doesn't see competitive pressures as a result of the change in policy?
No, I don't see competitive pressures, and I agree with what the other panelists have said on there isn't going to be a beeline to India because we've got some real challenges. For one, we don't have a GST. I mean, we are operating in a market where there's less documentation to send a shipment to England than there is to send a shipment to West Bengal from Delhi. I mean, you'd think sending it to West Bengal, you're sending it within the same country. But given the amount of paperwork and so all those things, as long as those hurdles remain, and the astronomical cost of rental, commercial rental in cities, I mean, it's going to be a real dampener on stores. I mean, Gap is true. The Gap should have a few thousand stores here and should be selling shirts at 500 rupees a shirt, but they're not going to be doing it as long as we have the kind of hurdles we have here, and GST being the largest single hurdle.
Let's take a break at this point. We're going to come back and take this topic further, so stay with us.